Welcome to In Confidence, where what we share in confidence helps us grow in confidence. If you've been listening to this season, we've talked a lot about the performing superpower. And one of the reasons is it's a superpower that appears in the lowest frequency amongst the population. So a lot of us struggle with this particular superpower, which is all about extroversion, charisma, speaking in front of others, being comfortable in front of an audience. And we've explored it in the terms of stage fright with Ada Sang, who reminded us that performing can be fun when you let go of perfection, and why karaoke is the perfect place to practice. We heard from Broadway director Shelley Williams, who shared what it means to rehearse, practice, prepare, so that when that moment comes, you are ready to step into that leadership opportunity with presence and courage. At the same time, the performing superpower can be really helpful to us when it comes to those smaller moments. I'm talking about the art of small talk. Going to some place where you don't know anyone. This is pretty timely for me because I actually have my 25-year college reunion coming up next week, where I have to go. I get to go, in the words of Vicky, when I get to go to my college reunion. Because public speaking isn't always about being on a stage. Sometimes you have to make small talk. Whether it's introducing yourself to someone at a networking event, making conversation at a wedding where you don't know that many people and you're the plus one, or trying to make meaning out of that awkward hover at the snack table at a party where you don't know anyone. That's happened to me so many times. It actually happened to me recently. So if small talk makes you anxious, and I'm personally gearing up for my reunion, I've got you. Today, I'm going to share with you two groups of ideas. First, what is the mindset that you need to bring to small talk? And second, I'm going to share with you 5 practical tips so that you can execute small talk with finesse. For the first part, I'm a huge believer that mindset drives behavior. And so we've got to actually get our mindset right before we go into these events and parties. That mindset has 2 elements to it. One, having an opportunity and abundance view every single time you go to an event. So much of the time I do this actually. I'll go, I don't really want to go to that thing. I got to get dressed. What if I don't know anyone? What if there's, nothing that comes from it? And I always say we got to switch it over to, who knows who I might meet? If I make one connection today, that's a win. Or I'm just proud of myself for getting dressed and getting out the door. If you have an opportunity and abundance view, all of a sudden you flip. It's not about all the drawbacks or the negatives of the opportunity. You're thinking about, what could I get out of this? Who am I going to meet? What interesting thing am I going to do? Or I'm just proud of myself for going. The second thing that I do is I remind myself of my own value. Hey, I was invited to this thing for a reason. I have inherent value. If you need to, review your superpower quiz results, or think about something that you're really proud of, or the happiest moment that you had of that week, and take that into the opportunity. Because when you remind yourself of your own value, you don't question, no one's going to talk to me. I'm not that interesting. You remind yourself of how interesting you are. So that's the right mindset you want to take into any new event where you don't know anyone or you have to make small talk. Opportunity and abundance mindset. And what is my value? What do I bring to the table? Why am I interesting? And that's a very important reset for yourself. The next thing is there are hacks. And I'm going to share with you 5 tips today if you need to go into small talk. These are the execution things. These are the behavioral ones. The first thing that I do is when I'm in an event where I don't know anyone, I always look for the person who's also alone. I think it's really hard when you try to enter a group conversation because those people already know each other or they're already engaged in something. I always look for one person who's sitting by themselves or standing by themselves, and that's the person you can start to engage first. And you can have I love your dress. That color is amazing. Where did you get it? You can actually also bond over the snack table. This happened to me 2 weeks ago. One of my good friends was giving a speech at the Asia Society, and getting swarmed by people who wanted to speak to her after the panel. There was a reception and there were these delicious cheese straws, these really yummy cheese straws standing next to the bar. And I just went over to the cheese straws and just started eating cheese straws. Inevitably, another woman came up to me to get a cheese straw. And I said to her, "Oh my gosh, these are the most delicious cheese straws. You have to have one." And the two of us sat there eating cheese straws. And then we started a conversation. So I always say, break the ice with the person who is also someone else's plus one or is alone or sitting by themselves. That's the best place to start. The second thing is when you do start that conversation, have some conversation starters. When we meet someone, we always start with demographic questions. Where are you from? And I think those demographic connection questions are really hard because what if you don't have any demography in common? What do you do for a living? Where do you live? Those are the standard form. I like to start with, hey, how are you connected to everyone? How did you get invited to this thing? Who do you know here? What is the reason why you're here? Because if you start with that, then all of a sudden you get to understand their purpose and why they came to the event or who else they know. And that leads to the next set of questions. Well, instead of what do you do, what are you excited about? What are you passionate about? How do you make a difference in the world? I do find, how do you make a difference in the world? I know it sounds corny, but that has engendered so many positive reactions. People smile when I say, how do you make a difference in the world? And they'll smile and they go, oh my gosh, what a big question. I'm going to come back to the woman with cheese straws in that she said to me, you know what? I moved here from China. I work for a large luxury conglomerate, and I am really excited because I've just taken on this new job. So I didn't even ask what she did or where was she from. She automatically went there and told me her whole story. If you also say the person's name back a few times, you'll start to remember their name. And I think that's a really fun way for people to be seen and know that you're interested in being there. This third thing that I do is as I ask these questions, I focus on why. And because the person's going to ask you the question back. So what do you do? Or and as opposed to reciting my resume, because you can look that up on LinkedIn, I focus on why I do what I do. And so what I often say is I have a small business, and what I'm really passionate about is helping people catalyze confidence in their lives. If you focus on your purpose, it's a great conversation starter. By the way, I don't even have to say the name of my company. They'll say, what does that mean that you catalyze confidence? And I'll say, well, we do fashion, we have content, we do workshops. There's all these ways because I find that people who have moments of insecurity, that's where I can have the greatest help. That's actually my gift and my life's purpose. And that leads to a whole set of conversations. And then naturally we get into my book or the podcast or other things that I'm doing. But when you focus on why you're doing it and not what you're doing, it leads to a much deeper and broader conversation. If you're in the midst of this conversation and it's coming to a little bit of a stagnant point, the fourth thing that I recommend people do is share an activity. I'll say, hey, do you need a drink? Should we walk over to the bar together? Or should we check out the appetizers? Or folks are going to the dance floor. I love this song. Would you like to go and check it out? And I find that when you move, the party moves with you. Other people will join you, or you meet other interesting people, or you're bumping into someone that person knows and they'll introduce you to that person. But share an activity. And then the last thing that I will say is, have a follow-up. Figure out if you really do want to keep connecting with this person, figure out how you want to do it. Do you want to connect with them on LinkedIn? Do you want to give them your email address, your phone number? Do you want to connect with them on Instagram or another social media platform? I always find it's a little bit awkward. It's kind of like being on a first date and saying, do you want my number? That if you have your go-to standard format that you want to connect with someone, then they feel seen. And then you'll know that if you want to talk to them, you have a way to connect. My go-to is LinkedIn. I'll say, hey, do you have LinkedIn? Should we connect on LinkedIn so we can stay connected? Because you never know where our paths might cross again. Being great at small talk is a combination of mindset and behavior. And so stay open, see the abundance, know your own value, and then try out some of these tips. I'd love to hear how your next event goes where you don't know anyone. The next time you find yourself in a room full of strangers, remember, you don't have to be the most outgoing person to make a lasting impression. In fact, You can be the most interesting person who's engaging others one-on-one. It doesn't have to be in a group setting. Small talk isn't about filling the silence. It's about creating connection. So ask passionately curious questions, engage in activities, find a way to stay connected in the follow-up. When you lead with curiosity, warmth, and gravitas, you turn a passing moment into a meaningful one. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of In Confidence. We're going to provide you a free downloadable PDF on our website where we have these tips cataloged for before you go to the event, how to get your mindset right, and during the event, practical tips to create connection. I hope you're leaving this space stronger than when you came into it. If you love this episode, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And I want to hear from you, if you try out some of these tips, what the impact was in your life. Until next time, in the words of my 9-year-old self, I see you, I value you, and I believe in you. This is In Confidence.